Ethan had always been an imaginative child, full of curiosity and wonder. Growing up in a small, quiet town on the edge of the world, his life felt simple and ordinary. But it wasn't just the world around him that intrigued him. It was the mysteries beyond his reach, the ones he would often dream about late at night. He would lie in bed, staring at the stars through his window, wondering about life in other places, about what else existed beyond his small town. It was during one of those childhood summers when Ethan met her, the girl who would change everything. Her name was Amara, a name that sounded like a song, smooth and lyrical. She had moved into the house next door, but she didn't belong to the town in the way everyone else did. There was something about her that didn't quite fit. It wasn't just her striking features, long, dark hair that shimmered in the sun, eyes that seemed to hold entire galaxies, but the way she carried herself. Amara was always a little distant, a little mysterious, as if she knew things about the world that no one else did. Despite her quiet nature, Ethan was drawn to her. At first, he found it odd that she preferred to be alone, often wandering the woods behind their homes or sitting by the riverbank. She would watch the water flow, her expression serene and thoughtful, as if she were lost in her own thoughts, thinking about things far beyond the reach of an ordinary child like him. One summer evening, after days of shy glances and quiet exchanges, Ethan decided to approach her. He had seen her sitting by the river again, staring at the sunset. His heart raced as he walked toward her. He wasn't sure what to say, but something told him that it was the right time. He had to speak to her. "Hi," he said, trying to sound casual. "I see you here a lot. Are you okay?" Amara turned to look at him, her face softening as she smiled. There was something about that smile, something warm and reassuring, as if she knew exactly what he needed to hear. "I'm fine," she replied, her voice like a melody. "Just thinking." Ethan, feeling a little more confident now, sat down beside her. "What do you think about?" he asked, genuinely curious. Amara paused for a moment as if choosing her words carefully. "I think about the stars," she said softly, looking up at the sky, "and about the promise I made." Ethan frowned, puzzled. "Promise?" She turned to him, her eyes locking with his. "A promise to someone very important," she said. "A promise that one day I'll return. I made it when I was young, just like you. I promised that I would come back for him." Ethan didn't fully understand what she meant, but there was something about her words that stuck with him. He could feel the weight of her promise, even if he didn't know who she was speaking about. It seemed important, something she carried deep inside her. It made Ethan feel a little closer to her, as if she were opening a door to a world he didn't yet understand. For the next few weeks, they spent more time together. They would sit by the river, talking about anything and everything. Amara shared stories about faraway places, things she had seen, and things she knew, things Ethan could barely begin to comprehend. It wasn't just her words that fascinated him, though. It was the way she spoke, as if she were older than her years, as if her experiences spanned beyond the town they both lived in. Ethan would listen with wide eyes, imagining the world she described. He would ask her countless questions, always eager to know more, but she never seemed to get frustrated with him. Instead, she would smile and tell him just enough to keep him intrigued, but never all the way. It was like she was slowly letting him in, piece by piece. And then one day, as summer began to fade and the air turned cooler, Amara said something that made Ethan's heart skip a beat. "We should make a promise," she said, her voice suddenly serious. "A promise?" Ethan repeated, not sure what she meant. Amara looked him in the eyes, her gaze intense. "A promise that, no matter what happens, we'll keep it, that when I come back you'll be waiting for me." Ethan didn't hesitate. He didn't need to think twice about it. He knew what she meant, even if he couldn't fully grasp it at that moment. "I'll wait," he said, his voice firm. "I promise." Amara smiled again, her eyes shining with something unspoken. "No matter how long it takes," she said, almost as if to reassure herself. "You'll wait." "I will," Ethan said without a second thought. "I'll wait for you, Amara." They sealed the promise with a simple handshake, one that felt heavy with meaning, like it had weight beyond the moment. It wasn't just a promise between two children anymore. It was something more, something that neither of them could yet understand but both knew was important. The days after that promise were filled with a strange kind of energy. There was a quiet, unspoken connection between them, something that neither of them could explain. They spent the rest of the summer together, enjoying the last days of warmth, but as the seasons began to change, so did their lives. One morning, without warning, Amara disappeared. No one saw her leave. No one knew where she went or why. Ethan searched the woods, asked around the town, but there was no sign of her. The promise they had made, the words they had spoken, seemed to vanish into thin air, leaving only the memory of a friendship that had meant more than either of them had known. For months, Ethan held on to that promise, believing that one day she would return. But as time went on, he started to wonder if he had imagined it all. Was Amara really out there somewhere, keeping her word? Or was it just a childhood fantasy, something he had built up in his mind? The years passed, and Ethan grew into a young man. He moved away from the small town, seeking a new life, but the memory of Amara and the promise they made stayed with him. He tried to move on, tried to forget, but it was impossible. Amara had become a part of him, a part of who he was. He would never forget her. He couldn't. And so he kept the promise, even as life went on without her. He kept the promise to wait. Little did he know, Amara hadn't forgotten him either. And she would return just as she had promised. The years passed slowly, each one stretching into the next, and Ethan continued to live with the memory of Amara. He had grown up, found a job, and tried to make a life for himself, but it always felt like something was missing. There was always a piece of him that felt incomplete, like a puzzle with a piece just out of reach. Every time he looked up at the stars, he thought of her, the girl who had promised to return. Ethan's life in the city was nothing like the quiet town where he had grown up. The hustle and bustle of the streets, the noise of cars and people, were a far cry from the peaceful summers by the river. Yet no matter how busy his days were, he always found himself staring at the sky, hoping to catch a glimpse of something, anything that might bring him closer to Amara. He had tried to move on. He had tried to forget the promise they had made, but it was impossible. The thought of her never left him, and the more time passed, the more it became clear to him that he would never truly be able to let go. Then, one ordinary evening, something extraordinary happened. Ethan was walking home after work, his thoughts once again drifting to Amara, when he noticed something unusual. The sky, which had been clear just moments before, was now filled with strange, shimmering lights. They danced and flickered across the horizon, moving in patterns that didn't make sense. Ethan stopped in his tracks, his heart racing. He had seen lights like this before, but never like this. These lights were different. They were too bright, too deliberate. For a moment he thought it might be a trick of his mind, a sign of his exhaustion. But no, there was something real about it. The lights grew stronger, more intense, until they were too bright to look at directly. Ethan's pulse quickened as he realized that something was coming. Something was about to happen. As the lights grew brighter, a low hum filled the air. It wasn't the sound of an engine, but something else, something deeper, more resonant. The hum seemed to vibrate through the ground beneath his feet, making the earth feel alive, like it was awakening after a long slumber. And then, in an instant, the lights stopped. Everything went quiet. Ethan stood there, frozen, unsure of what had just happened. He looked up, his eyes scanning the sky, but there was nothing, just the familiar stars, shining down on him like they always had. For a brief moment, he thought he might have imagined it. Maybe it had been a dream, a hallucination, something his mind had conjured up in its endless search for her. But then he saw it. A ship. A massive, sleek craft descended from the sky, its surface shimmering with an otherworldly glow. It was unlike anything he had ever seen before, a perfect blend of smooth curves and sharp angles. The ship glided silently through the air, landing just beyond the edge of the city, its descent so graceful it almost looked like it was floating. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. He knew what this was. He had been waiting for this moment, for this sign, for years. This was no coincidence. This was her. She was back. Without thinking, Ethan ran toward the ship, his legs carrying him faster than he ever thought possible. His heart was racing, his mind clouded with excitement and disbelief. Could it really be her? Could she have returned just as she promised? As he reached the landing site, the ship's hatch opened slowly, revealing a figure silhouetted against the glowing interior. The figure stepped out, tall and regal, with long, flowing hair that shimmered in the dim light. Ethan's breath caught in his throat as the figure stepped into the light, and he saw her face. It was Amara. She looked just as he remembered her. No, she looked even more beautiful than he could have imagined. Her features were the same, but there was something different about her now, something that spoke of power and grace. She was no longer the girl he had known. She had grown just as he had, but she had become something more. Amara's eyes met his, and for a moment the world seemed to stop. There was no noise, no movement, just the two of them standing there, gazing at each other across the distance of time and space. Ethan felt his heart swell in his chest, his breath coming in shallow gasps. He had waited for this moment for so long, but now that it was here, he didn't know what to say. He didn't know if he could say anything at all. Amara smiled softly, her expression filled with warmth and something else, something deeper, like she had been waiting just as long as he had. "Ethan," she said, her voice like music, sweet and melodic. "I've come back." Ethan could hardly believe his ears. She had come back. The promise they had made all those years ago was still alive, still burning brightly between them. She had kept her word. I can't believe it," Ethan said, his voice shaky. I thought you were just a dream." "I was never a dream," Amara replied, taking a step toward him. "And I'm not a memory. I'm real, Ethan. I'm here." As she approached, Ethan noticed the way she carried herself now. There was a quiet strength in her movements, a regal confidence that made her seem larger than life. She was not the same girl who had wandered the woods with him. She had changed, grown into something more powerful, something beyond his understanding. But even with all her newfound strength, she was still the same Amara, the girl who had promised to return. "I don't understand," Ethan said, his voice still filled with wonder. "Why did you leave? Why now? Why did you wait so long?" Amara's expression softened and she reached out, gently taking his hand. "I had to," she said. "My people needed me. I was never truly gone, Ethan. I was always with you, even when I wasn't here. And now I've returned, not just for you, but for all of us." Ethan was confused, his mind struggling to keep up with her words. "What do you mean? What are you talking about?" Amara hesitated for a moment, her gaze distant as if she were gathering her thoughts. "I am not just Amara anymore. I am the queen of the Orcan Empire, Ethan. I have come to fulfill my duty and I need you by my side." The words hit Ethan like a punch to the gut. Queen, Orcan Empire, he didn't understand. "You're a queen, but you're still—" "I am still me," Amara interrupted, her eyes softening. "But I have responsibilities now, Ethan. Responsibilities to my people. I didn't want to come back and pull you into this world, but now I realize I have no choice. The future of my people and yours is tied together, and I need you." Ethan's heart raced as he tried to process what she was saying. Amara was no longer the girl he had known. She was something else now, something far beyond him. She had come back, but it wasn't just to be with him. It was to bring him into her world, a world that he could never have imagined. "I don't know what to say," Ethan whispered, his mind spinning. "I don't know if I can be a part of that." Amara's smile was understanding, but there was a hint of sadness in her eyes. "I know this is overwhelming, Ethan, but I need you. I need you to help me, to stand by me as we face the challenges ahead." Ethan stood there, torn between the life he had known and the life that Amara was offering. He had waited for her all these years, but now that she was here, the truth felt too big to grasp. He didn't know if he could follow her into this new world, or if he could leave behind everything he had built. But one thing was clear. Amara had returned, and the promise they had made long ago was now a living, breathing reality. And Ethan knew, no matter how uncertain the future seemed, he couldn't turn away from it. Ethan stood frozen, the weight of Amara's words pressing down on him. The woman before him, the woman he had waited for his entire life, was no longer just a girl from his childhood. She was a queen, a ruler of an empire far beyond his understanding. The world she had come from was now crashing into his own, and everything he thought he knew about life, about his future, was suddenly in question. Amara stood there, waiting for him to speak, her eyes soft but filled with a quiet urgency. There was no hint of the uncertainty that Ethan was feeling in her gaze. She was resolute, confident, as though she knew exactly what needed to be done. But Ethan, he was lost. "I never thought I'd see you again," Ethan said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. "I thought I imagined it, that it was just a dream, but now you're a queen. What does that mean for me? What does it mean for us?" Amara's gaze never wavered. "It means that you're a part of something bigger now, Ethan. Our promise, the one we made when we were children, is only the beginning. I need you here with me. The world we're about to face won't be easy. There are forces at play that we both must understand and confront." Ethan swallowed hard. He had spent his entire life thinking about Amara, hoping that one day she would return, but now that she was here, he didn't know what to do. He was still the same person, still the boy who had promised to wait, but she wasn't the same girl he had known. She had changed, and so had the world. "I don't know if I'm ready for this," Ethan said, running a hand through his hair. "I don't know if I can just step into this empire. You're asking me to join you in a world I don't understand, Amara. I don't even know if I can be a part of it." Amara stepped closer, her voice soft but firm. "You don't have to understand everything right away, Ethan. I didn't ask you to be part of this world, but I'm telling you now, you're already part of it. You have been since the moment we made that promise. This is bigger than just us, Ethan. It's bigger than any one person. It's about the future of both our worlds." Ethan looked at her, his heart racing. He had always believed in their promise, but he had never imagined it would lead him here, into the heart of something so grand, so unimaginable. His thoughts swirled, caught between the life he had built and the future that now seemed to await him. Could he walk away from everything? Could he leave behind the life he knew to follow her into an unknown world? "I need time to think," Ethan said, taking a step back. "This, all of this, it's too much to take in at once. I need time to figure out what it means for me, for us." Amara nodded, understanding in her eyes. "I will give you time. But remember, the longer we wait, the more danger we put ourselves in. There are forces in my empire that want to see us fail. I need you by my side, Ethan, now more than ever." Ethan nodded silently, his mind racing. He needed to clear his head, to process everything that had happened, but the weight of her words hung heavy on his chest. He turned away, not sure where to go or what to do. The city around him seemed to hum with a quiet energy, as if it too was waiting for something to change. As he walked through the streets, Ethan's thoughts returned to his childhood. He remembered the promise, the way Amara had smiled at him, and how he had promised to wait for her, no matter how long it took. But back then, he had no idea what that promise would mean. He had no idea what it would ask of him, what kind of future it would lead to. Now, standing on the brink of something much larger than he could have imagined, he wasn't sure if he was ready for it. He found himself at the edge of the city, where the lights of the skyline blurred into the darkness. The cool night air did little to calm his racing thoughts. He could feel the pull of Amara's promise, the connection that still held him to her, even after all these years. She had returned, and she was asking him to stand by her side in a world that felt completely foreign. As he sat down on a park bench, looking up at the stars above, his mind wandered back to the night they had first met. That night by the river when he had promised to wait for her. He had been so certain then, so sure that she would come back. But now everything was so much more complicated. The stars above twinkled, but they felt distant, far away, just like the world Amara had come from. She had returned, but she was no longer the same girl. She was a queen, a ruler of an empire, and the weight of her title carried with it responsibilities that Ethan couldn't yet understand. It was then that he realized something. He had always believed in their promise, in the bond they shared. But now, standing at the crossroads of two worlds, he had to decide what kind of person he was going to be. Was he the boy who made a promise, or was he someone else now, someone who could help shape the future of two worlds? Ethan stood up, his heart pounding in his chest. He didn't have all the answers, and he didn't know if he was ready for the challenges ahead, but one thing was certain. He couldn't walk away. Not now. Not after everything they had been through. When he returned to the place where Amara had landed, she was waiting for him. She stood tall, her regal presence commanding the space around her, but when she saw him, her face softened. "You've made your decision," Amara said, her voice gentle but filled with understanding. Ethan nodded. "I'm not sure what comes next, but I'm with you. I made a promise and I'm going to keep it. Whatever comes, we'll face it together." A smile spread across Amara's face, and for a brief moment she looked like the girl he had once known, the one he had promised to wait for. But as her gaze shifted to the horizon, to the vastness of the stars and the empire she ruled, it was clear that they both had much to face. Together, they stepped forward into the unknown. The world they had known was changing, and with it, the future of both their worlds. There would be challenges ahead, dangers they could not yet comprehend. But one thing was certain. Ethan had kept his promise, and he was ready to face whatever came next by Amara's side. The promise that had once been made in innocence, in the quiet of their childhood, had now become a bond that would shape the future of two worlds. And with that, they turned their gaze to the stars once more, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them.